want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Hey everyone, Jesse Shade from Awfully Good Movies here, and 2017 was a year full of surprises from Hollywood. No, I'm not talking about those surprises. I'm talking about the good surprises. Like how a guy from a sketch comedy duo turned out to be a masterful horror filmmaker, how one of the worst movies ever made inspired one of the best movies of the year, or how DC managed to make an honest-to-God great movie for once. But Hollywood still had its fair share of epic fails, which brings us to our list of the worst movies of 2017. As usual, we had you awesome readers at JoBlo.com pick from our poll which was the worst movie you've seen this past year. And since we know there's a lot of trolls out there who will dick around with the movie's internet ratings just for giggles and farts, we're once again taking precautions by adding the IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes scores for each of these movies, and dividing that sum by the percentage of readers who voted for the movie. But the movies that landed in the top 10 are the ones which you guys put there. And I can't tell you how excited I get about doing these worst movies of the year lists at the end of each year. Hell, I've even appeared on other people's worst movie of the year countdown videos from time to time.
Norm of the North. You gotta do that shit again, wow, you kind of look, you as big as that fucking bear right there, man. Yeah.
I mean, that's just about the biggest compliment you can receive from a fellow film critic, that you resemble a twerking polar bear, voiced by Rob Schneider. Thank you, Corey Coleman. You have made my life. So without further ado, JoBlo.com and Awfully Good Movies present your picks for the worst movies of 2017. Number 10, Resident Evil, The Final Chapter. When the first Resident Evil game hit the PlayStation in 1996, it scared its players silly and began a media empire. There were sequels, there were spin-offs, and there was a movie adaptation in 2002, starring Mila Jovovich as the zombie-shooting Alice, as directed by her future husband, Paul W.S. Anderson. And much like Anderson's adaptation of Mortal Kombat, it was one of the less mind-meltingly awful video game movies. And its solid box office gave us a couple of sequels: Apocalypse, Extinction, Afterlife, Retribution, Armtribution, Extraftergeddon, and Resident Evil Saves Christmas. But now Jovovich and Anderson have wrapped it up with The Final Chapter, because when a horror franchise says that they've made their final movie, you know that they totally mean it. And wouldn't you know it, this sixth installment is just like all the rest, with Mila Jovovich and her gang of marauders roaming the post-apocalyptic wasteland, shooting up undead zombies, and facing off against the evil corporate bad guy from the second and third movie, who's returned to the series because he needs something to do while Game of Thrones is on hiatus. But thanks to the shaky cinematography of the action scenes and a post-production 3D conversion, this movie was hard to watch in more ways than one, and it had the lowest box office debut of any movie in the franchise. But combined with its worldwide gross, it's actually the highest grossing film of the franchise. And as long as Capcom keeps pumping out Resident Evil games, there is surely a chance for more Resident Evil movies. Just please consider to start numbering these movies though. This franchise is hardly too dignified to start putting some numbers in your goddamn titles. I mean, really. Number 9, XXX, Return of Xander Cage. After Vin Diesel launched his career with the first Fast and Furious in 2001, he decided to pass on doing a sequel so he could do XXX, an action spy thriller where he played extreme athlete turned super spy, Xander Cage. But after that movie cleaned up at the box office, Diesel once again passed on doing a sequel so he could launch another franchise with The Chronicles of Riddick.
He chose poorly.
But now that Vin Diesel had come back to the Fast and Furious franchise and made billions of dollars in the process, he felt the time was right to bring Xander Cage out of retirement. And not only did he bring back his failed replacement Ice Cube for a cameo, but his fellow spies were played by a group of international superstars. Tony Jaa from Thailand, Ruby Rose from Australia, Jarrett Imwe from the Jeddah system, and the returning Samuel L. Jackson from the country of what?
What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English and what?
The problem is, it's a little hard for Vin Diesel to convincingly play an extreme athlete who's cool with the kids when he's pushing 50 years old. And since the Fast and Furious movies have already turned Diesel and his crew into government spies who perform ridiculous stunts, there's really nothing that another XXX movie would bring to the table that the next Fast and Furious wouldn't already give to us in a couple of months. And thus this movie was met with awful reviews and underwhelming box office here in America, but has made over $300 million around the rest of the world. So maybe Xander Cage will once again get to unconvincingly fly out of a plane thanks to the magic of green screen. Number 8, Chips. If there was any lesson Hollywood should have learned from the success of 21 and 22 Jump Street, it's that a comedic adaptation of a cheesy TV drama can actually pay off if you make the effort. But Warner Brothers certainly didn't make an effort with their film adaptation of Chips. Sure, the original motorcycle cop drama from the 70s and 80s wasn't fresh in the minds of today's generation, but hiring Dax Shepard to write, direct, and star in its comedic film adaptation would surely give it a fresh coat of paint. And since the window of opportunity closed long ago for Wilmer Valderrama to play Punch, we'll have Michael Pena come in instead to fill Eric Estrada's iconic brown uniform. But we all remember what happened the last time Dax Shepard wrote and directed a movie. Oh, wait a minute. No, we don't. Nobody saw that fucking movie. And no one saw the Chips movie either, with its bromance-related humor clearly taken from the 21 Jump Street playbook, and its jokes having a weirdly specific focus on dicks and asses. Well, now that this movie has failed, I guess my hopes of a film adaptation of Cop Rock have been completely dashed. It's just not fair, goddammit. Number 7. Geostorm. As we've seen from the heavy storms and wildfires which have hit America this year, global warming can be a real bitch. But some of the movies that it's inspired are pretty goddamn bad as well, such as Birdemic or The Day After Tomorrow. Speaking of Day After Tomorrow, Roland Emmerich's former producing partner Dean Devlin decided to get back into the disaster movie game with his first directorial effort, set in a future where satellites have been sent up into space to successfully stop climate change from creating disastrous weather, until one day the satellites start malfunctioning and whoop the Earth's ass with natural disasters, forcing the chief satellite architect, played by Gerard Butler, to go up into space and fix the satellites so he can save Earth.
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Well, at least that was the reception from test audiences when they first saw this movie in December 2015. Then after its release was delayed by Batman vs. Superman taking its spot, Warner Brothers did $15 million worth of reshoots in December 2016, with Jerry Bruckheimer as the new producer.
It's like puking on a pile of shit.
And as if it wasn't bad enough that Dean Devlin came back to produce that shitty Independence Day sequel last year, the delayed release of Geostorm a year later has officially killed his chances of a comeback. And how the hell has Gerard Butler not fired his goddamn agent already? Seriously, it's been a decade since 300 came out, Jerry. You need help. Number 6. 50 Shades Darker. In 2015, 50 Shades of Grey was voted by you JoBlo readers as the second worst movie of that year. In 2016, its parody 50 Shades of Black was voted as the year's 5th worst movie. Now we have hit 3 straight years of 50 Shades movies making it onto this list. And for this sequel, the sexual antics of rich playboy Christian Grey and his girlfriend Anna Steele have gotten even kinkier and stupider, with Anna and Christian's strange love affair under attack by the reappearance of their former lovers. But while the first 50 Shades broke all sorts of box office records opening on Valentine's weekend, 50 Shades Darker opened on that same weekend only to get its ass beat by the Lego Batman movie. Because when it comes to brooding billionaires who lead double lives, use neat gadgets, and have sex with Kim Basinger, at least Batman won't stick any of those gadgets up your ass. For the fate of the 50 Shades franchise, the fans don't need to worry, because they filmed the final installment at the same time as the second one. And I'm sure 50 Shades Freed will be the one which is so good that it redeems this entire series. Ah, who the fuck are we kidding? We'll be seeing you two assholes on next year's list. Number 5, The Dark Tower. Stephen King is one of those few writers whose novels and short stories can get adapted into movies or TV series as soon as the books hit the shelves. Except for the 8 novels in his Dark Tower series, an epic saga which combines interdimensional sci-fi with gritty western gunslinging. With this series' complex mythology and meta references to other Stephen King books, a big screen adaptation has eluded such filmmakers as J.J. Abrams and Ron Howard. But this year, we finally got a Dark Tower movie that would serve as both an adaptation of the books and a sequel to the books. And with Ron Howard staying on as producer, it would surely be a huge success. It wasn't. First off, let's make it clear that casting Idris Elba as Roland the Gunslinger was not responsible for this movie sucking. No, the problem here was trying to stuff 8 books worth of mythology and backstory into a 95-minute movie, with a bunch of last-minute reshoots and re-editing in the wake of poor test screenings. Didn't anybody learn anything from the last Airbender movie? And Stephen King has complained that making it a PG-13 movie didn't do justice to the extreme amounts of violence in his books. So with this first Dark Tower getting shot down with bad reviews and low low box office, nobody knows what's gonna happen to not just the second Dark Tower movie, but the planned Dark Tower TV show starring Idris Elba as well. But in the world of literary fantasy adaptations, you either come correct or you don't come at all. So I think the answer to that open question would have to be no. No. Number 4. The Mummy. While Disney rakes in the cash with its Marvel universe, its Star Wars universe, and its recently acquired X-Men universe, the rest of Hollywood has been eager to make bank on their own cinematic universes. And the classic monster movies that Universal Studios made in the 30s and 40s gave Universal a perfect blueprint to work from, seeing as they were doing crossover movies long before Marvel Studios did. Sure, Universal had already tried starting a monster universe 3 years ago with Dracula Untold, but for the last time, that movie never happened. It was just a bad dream. Instead, we're gonna start all over again with this remake of the Boris Karloff classic, which had already been remade into a mega hit franchise. And this time, we got the knife legs girl from Kingsman to play a gender-swapped mummy, with none other than Tom Cruise playing her hapless victim.
Show me the mummy!
And Russell Crowe coming in to tie this universe together in the role of Nick Fury.
Dr. Jekyll.
And screw it, we're so confident that this movie's gonna be a hit that we've already taken a photo shoot with the future Universal monsters. Javier Bardem as Frankenstein's monster, and Johnny Depp as the Invisible Man. So yeah, we're confident that our new Dark Universe is gonna keep pumping out new movies for years to come after the release of The Mummy breaks box office oh shit.
Son of a bitch!
Yes, not even the box office cloud of Tom Cruise could help launch this turd off the ground, thanks to a manufactured script that ripped off not just the first Mummy remake, but even An American Werewolf in London, and was so interested in setting up future Dark Universe movies that it didn't give a shit about setting up this first movie. And now we may not even see the rest of these movies, with 2 of the Dark Universe's biggest producers leaving the franchise after The Mummy's failure, which means we won't be seeing James Franco and Seth Rogen meet Frankenstein anytime soon. Well, at least we still have that trailer, which Universal accidentally put online without any music or sound effects. Number 3, Transformers: The Last Night. The Transformers movie franchise is the worst movies of the year list, what Daniel Day-Lewis is to the Oscars. Every year that they make a new movie, they're at least gonna get a nomination. And here we are with Michael Bay's latest parade of robot carnage. And not only has Mark Wahlberg returned to once again look like his brain's starting to hurt from thinking too much, but we also have Sir Anthony Hopkins join the cast to play the confused elderly actor who thinks he's back on the set of Westworld for season 2. And since these movies do need some sort of excuse for a story, we've got Optimus Prime being brainwashed by an evil robot sorceress to obtain a magic staff from a group of earthbound Transformers who help King Arthur defeat the Saxons.
That's the dumbest thing I ever.
But no matter what story you give these movies, it all boils down to robots punching each other and things exploding. And unlike the last 4 installments, this one didn't do spectacularly at the box office, becoming the lowest grossing movie of the franchise, as well as its worst reviewed. But Hasbro still wants a cinematic universe around these Transformers, so get ready for next Christmas's release of the Bumblebee spin-off movie, starring none other than John Cena. As for Michael Bay, he is again insisting he won't return for the 6th Transformers movie. And perhaps he actually means it this time. I mean, after you've managed to cast Shakespearean actor Anthony Hopkins alongside a robot named Nitro Zeus, then you've gone as far as you can go with this franchise, if you ask me.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Number 2, Tyler Perry's Boo 2, A Madea Halloween. Say what you will about Tyler Perry's comedic misadventures of his sassy alter ego Madea, but at least Tyler's had the creative foresight to keep throwing Madea into new situations with every new movie, and never relies on the same plot device twice. But last year's Madea Halloween was such a hit that he decided to have Madea spend another movie hitting ghosts and zombies upside their heads with her purse. And for this sequel, Tyler Perry has really upped the dramatic stakes, where that first movie was about Madea and her friends chasing after a rebellious teenage girl who snuck away to attend a Halloween frat party. This follow-up now has Madea and her friends chasing after that same teenage girl when she again sneaks out to attend an outdoors frat party on Halloween. Boy, that $5 million they've added to the budget really makes a difference, huh? But this time, even some of Tyler Perry's defenders had to admit this sequel was just a lazy copy of the first movie, which was simply made to make money off the Halloween season. I mean, were where that first Madea Halloween got a grade A cinema score from audiences, the second one went down to an A-. Still, it went on to become the 10th Tyler Perry movie to open at #1 at the box office, and A Madea Family Funeral is slated for release in August. So for now, the threat of more Madea Halloween movies is much like the threat of Michael Myers. The boogeyman may have been defeated for now, but it will surely come back for more. And now, we are proud to announce that the #1 worst movie of 2017, as voted by the readers of JoBlo.com, is the Emoji Movie. This is Tony Leondis, the visionary animation director who gave you Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, and Igor. One day Tony was thinking about what a modern day version of Toy Story would look like when he was sent a text message with an emoji in it, and that gave him his brilliant idea. Let's do a Toy Story for emojis!
That's the dumbest.
Yes, that may sound like the dumbest of ideas, but we all scoffed at the idea of a Lego movie as well, until we actually saw it and found out it was awesome. And much like Lego Movie, this film also deals with a protagonist who feels like an outcast in the middle of his perfect society, and travels into the outside world so he can find his destiny. In fact, that's pretty much the plot of every animated movie that comes out these days.
I'm an emoji. I gotta have some sort of purpose here.
I'm going outside the hive.
I'm going to Robot City. I'll make you proud.
But what drove the Emoji Movie apart was the sheer talent of its voice cast, especially the voice of Sir Patrick Stewart as the poop emoji, going from #1 to #2.
The poop.
Oh, wait a minute. Every animated movie has a superstar cast, so that's nothing unique. But hey, did we mention that we cut in and out on scenes of the little kid who's going through these different emotions as they happen in real life? Oh, you've got to be kidding me! Well then, I guess the Emoji Movie is just like every other CGI animation movie before it, except for one aspect. It barely made any money. Plus, the reviews happen to be abysmally unkind for an animated movie released by a major studio. Maybe the problem was the movie's advertising, which fell into hot water when an ad on the movie's Twitter parodied the Hulu original series The Handmaid's Tale. Brutal dictatorships where women are held against their will to bear children. The kids just love them. But no amount of ads would have saved the Emoji Movie from being the largest among Sony Pictures' many failures this year, and from being the worst of the many terrible movies from 2017. So to summarize my final thoughts, angry emoji, middle finger emoji, and burning film strip emoji.
The poop.
And so we have reached the end of counting down your picks for the worst movies of 2017. Who knows, one of these days I might review one of these turkeys for Awfully Good Movies, which releases new episodes every other week here on the JoBlo Videos YouTube channel. Until next year, this is Jesse Shea for JoBlo.com, and let us once again end this list by paying respects to the movies that didn't quite make the list this year.
Give me a beat.
Baby, baby, won't